Everyone, welcome back to my channel for another Genshin Impact video, and the 2.2 banners have officially been confirmed based off of the live stream that just happened yesterday at the time of this recording. And I know it's purely rerun characters, but I'm actually pretty excited because these are two of my favorite characters, that being Childe and then Hu Tao, who is pictured here in frame. And now I understand that probably a lot of people aren't too happy about Childe rerunning again, because this will be his third character banner and his second rerun. But if you're a newer player to the game, I still really like this character, and I'll get into all of that in a little bit. But first of all, before I get into this video, I just want to say please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does just go a long way in helping out the growth of this channel. I know I haven't been making as many YouTube videos lately, but that's all going to change. I recently just moved. I'm in a completely new house now. My wife and I have actually just bought a house, so for the past month or so, I've been mostly focusing on that. But now that I feel a lot more settled into the space, I plan to start making a lot more YouTube content. But just want to go ahead and say that I do stream still most days over on Twitch at twitch.tv/RichardOriginal. I stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So if you want to see more Genshin content, please make sure to give me a follow over there. And without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right into this video. Okay, so Hu Tao and Childe. I'm going to come back to Hu Tao in a little bit because Childe will be our first rerun banner that comes up in 2.2. So today's video, I want to go ahead and just talk about both Childe and Hu Tao, talk about some of their kits, and if you're torn about which one to pick up, if you're a free-to-play player or a low spender and you think you'll only have enough for one of the characters, what my thoughts are on who you should pick. And I'm not gonna lie, it's going to be marginally thin who I decide to tell you that I think would be a little bit better overall. Now, starting off with Childe, I think he's a really great character. I'm gonna go into his character page here. I only have him level 79, and I do need to level him up and take him to at least 80 out of 90, but already he's doing incredible. If I look at his stats here, I have 60 crit rate to 187 crit damage. I do wish I had more crit rate there, but I don't have much artifact luck. I currently run him on a Skyward Heart. This is, as of right now, I believe his best weapon. Maybe the Thundering Pulse, which was Yoimiya's bow, is actually a little bit better, but this is what I have. This was one of the first 5-star weapons I ever got from the standard banner, and I remember actually thinking oh, I wish I would have gotten any other weapon other than a bow. But I ended up with this weapon, which I found out was actually really good for Childe, and when I accidentally built him actually a couple months ago by giving him hand-me-down artifacts, he started hitting insane numbers for me. This bow is obviously really good, especially if you look at the passive. It enhances his crit rate and his crit damage. Childe does have other options though. If I go into here, the Viridescent Hunt gives him crit rate, which will help out his ratio for sure. His signature, or I guess cannon weapon, is the Rust, which does increase his normal attacks, and when he goes into his E state, that definitely helps out a lot. And I haven't actually tested myself because I don't have it leveled, but I have heard people using the new Inazuma craftable weapon, the Hamayumi here. For me, I currently run him on a 2-piece Heart of Depth and a 2-piece Glad. Ideally, I would have him on a 4-piece Heart of Depth, because if you look at the 4-piece set here, it says after using an elemental skill, it increases the normal attack and charge attack damage by 30%. So once he goes into his E form, which I'll get into here in a little bit. I have him C0, which I think is really good. Just to kind of run through his constellations real quick, his C1 is kind of like his overall best quality of life constellation. I feel like if you're a lower-ish spender, a C1 might be good to go for because it does decrease the cooldown of his E form, which is actually a really high cooldown if you don't get your rotations down perfectly. All the rest of his constellations, I'm not even really going to go through them because I don't think they're extremely worth it, to be honest with you. And then finally on his talents, I have him at 777. Now with Childe, if you don't know how to play him, he's not like other archers. Of course, he does have his usual charge shot, like you can see here, which will apply Hydro. But the thing about Childe is that when you hit his E, it actually puts him into a melee stance, which I think is really, really fun to play. I remember this is why I actually pulled for him initially, but I remember being early game and not thinking this was that good. But if you look at his attack patterns here, there actually does a lot of AoE around him, which will hit multiple enemies, which is really incredible, especially when you pair him up with other off-field supports. So I moved my face cam over because I realized you couldn't see it, but I ran out of the entire E form, and as you can see right now at the bottom right there, I think with this clip it's about like 16 seconds, but when I actually ran out in the entire thing, it was like a 40-second cooldown, which is a lot of time, especially when you're in battle. But now that this is ready again, what I typically do is when I go into E form, I just do like a couple of combos all the way, maybe some charge attacks in there, and I'm swapping out to another character, which will stop it for you. And as you can see, the cooldown is only at 11 seconds after doing a few combos, and that's really helpful especially if you do play him in like a quick swap team. And so if you do like swapping around to a lot of different characters, he is actually super good and you won't have to worry too much about that cooldown. I have run into issues with it a couple of times for sure, so I would say that C1 would come in handy, but overall I feel like it's just kind of like more quality of life if you can get your rotations and your timing down. So now really quickly, I want to talk about team comps and synergy when it comes to Childe, and one of his best partners on any team comp with Childe is going to be Xiangling, who, if you don't know, Xiangling is one of the best pyro DPS characters in this game. Her pyronado is actually insane, and how that pyronado actually works in synergy with Childe in his E form is absolutely pretty broken, and I've really fallen in love with this team specifically. I actually took a level 40 Xiangling into Abyss with only talent levels 111 not too long ago for a video that I'm going to go ahead and leave a card up at the top if you want to go ahead and watch that. And the big thing with that was using Xiangling's pyronado in tandem with Tartaglia's E form. I'm going to show it off really quickly here though. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use this Ruin Guard as my training dummy here. I'm going to try to avoid this attack and just going to come in with Xiangling here and use her pyronado. Immediately switch to Childe and go into his E form, and as you can see, just tons of vaporizes there, and just pretty much every single time the pyronado comes by, it's a vaporize, and with crits hitting like 6k 7ks, and that's only with a level 69 Xiangling and a level 79 Tartaglia. So if I do actually level them both up, it will do a lot more, and I'm pretty sure that Ruin Guard would be toast. And I do definitely plan to level them up. There's still a lot of potential in these characters. If I look at my Xiangling here, like I mentioned, only 69 out of 70. She has a prototype Star Glitter, but if you do fishing, unlike me, you'll get the catch, which is actually an incredibly busted weapon for her because it's going to increase her crit rate and crit damage of her burst, so her pyronado like we were just using, especially if you team it up with the 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate set. I only have her C3. The C4 for her is actually pretty busted too because it does increase the duration of pyronado by 40%, making it even longer of time that the pyronado is out there to be able to do combos. And her current talents I have are only 2, 1, and 8, so there's still a lot of room for growth, especially for that pyronado combo. And so now to demonstrate with what is actually become one of my favorite team comps in this entire game is using them with these two supports in Bennett and Kazuha. Bennett's going to be there for his healing, but also for his attack boost using his Q. And then Kazuha, same kind of thing with his Q. He's actually going to give even more pyro damage. So on floor 12, first chamber, just gonna rush into here with Bennett, put his Q down. Kazuha, I'm gonna do his E and then Q. And then I'll just Xiangling Tartaglia. I can use his Q here and then go into his E form, and just like that, all those Karagi are dead. And just using him to like finish off these little guys really quickly. And then just like this has pretty much become one of my favorite combos in the entire game. And then when the second wave comes, I can just go ahead and do that exact same combo all over again, and then swap to Tartaglia. All this pyro swirling in here, and then I'm using all this AoE from Childe's melee stance to go crazy, and just like that, they're almost all dead in less than a minute. So Childe here is a very strong character, teaming him up with some really great off-field supports, and Xiangling you do get for free just from doing Spiral Abyss, I think up to like floor 4 or something like that. So his best partner you actually get in the game for free, which makes his value really high in my opinion. And I'll come back to Childe in a little bit and talk about Hu Tao for now. So Hu Tao, I won't lie, is actually one of the best characters in this entire game. She actually hits like a truck and is known as one of the Liyue big three when it comes to main DPS characters. Now Hu Tao, she is a pole arm, which is one of my favorite play styles here. And if I go into her character page, I do have her at level 81 currently. Her ratio is kind of insane. It's only 50 crit rate to 255 crit damage. I have this set up the current way because I just want to see the big number hit. Now, don't get me wrong, if I do end up switching her, which I plan to one day when I finally get a 5-star pole arm for my Zhongli, she will get this deathmatch here, and then her ratio will actually change up and be 86 to 202. So Hu Tao has a lot of different weapon options. Like I mentioned, I'm currently running the Blackcliff pole, which you do get for free from the shop with like Stardust or Star Glitter. She does have other options in weapons like Dragon's Bane, because this is going to give her elemental mastery, which will help out her Vaporize, which I'll show in a little bit why that's actually super useful, because one of her best teammates is going to help her Vaporize all of the time. So when it comes to artifacts for Hu Tao, I do have her currently on a 4-piece Shimenawa Reminiscent. That's because her charge attack is one of the strongest charge attacks in the game, especially when you go into her E form. But I actually really do feel like if you have a good 4-piece Crimson Witch of Flames set, then this actually a little bit better. It's going to do a lot of damage with her burst. Now, I have 0 luck in the Crimson Witch of Flames domain, so unfortunately I do not have a set for her. I had a really scuffed one before, and honestly she was still hitting numbers, so I can only imagine if you do actually have a good Crimson Witch set. So I currently do have her C0, and like Childe, her C1 is actually pretty insane, because it says while in your form, which is when she does her E, Hu Tao's charge attacks do not consume stamina. And I'm going to show you in a little bit why that's actually busted, because Hu Tao's charge attack in that form is absolutely insane. So then her other constellations are pretty wild too. They all really do help her out. A big one is also C4, because after defeating an enemy affected by a blood blossom, basically she will mark enemies, and if they die from that, then the entire team gets a crit rate boost of 12% for 15 seconds, which is pretty insane. And then her C6, if you're a whale's whale, the C6 here triggers when Hu Tao's HP drops below 25%, or when she suffers a lethal strike. Hu Tao will not fall, so she literally won't die from the damage sustained. And for the next 10 seconds, all of her elemental and physical resistance is increased by 200%, so she becomes an insane tank. And then her crit rate is increased by 100%. And her resistance to interruption is greatly increased. This effect triggers automatically when Hu Tao has 1 HP left. So you can literally be having Hu Tao on insane life support and be able to get 100% crit rate from her, which is absolutely wild to think. So now Hu Tao, as strong as she is, she does have a couple of like small gameplay, maybe gimmicks as you would say. Like I just hit the E right there, and as you can see, this is going to infuse her weapon with pyro. So all of her attacks, all of her normals, and her charges are going to do pyro for a set duration of time before it runs out. And then the cooldown isn't bad at all. By the time it ran out, there was only some seconds left. If I do switch to another character though, that's going to take me out of the form, similar to Tartaglia here. And then Hu Tao, yeah, this cooldown was at 11 seconds when I went back to her, and she doesn't have this anymore. But one thing you might notice, if you look down at the health bar there, I started at full HP and I'm currently around half HP. So every time she does her E, it's actually going to decrease her HP, which I think for a lot of like newer players and people who, you know, don't really use shield characters that much, or get a little anxious when it comes to their characters being at low HP, that sounds pretty horrible to you. But there's a difference there. Our favorite funeral parlor director here kind of like teeters on life and death, and that's kind of what her kit hints at. So that's why when you use her E, the HP goes down, but her attack actually increases when she's below half HP. If I go into her talents here and look at this passive, when Hu Tao's HP is equal or less than 50%, her pyro damage bonus is increased by 33%. Sure, you're going to be under 50% HP at times and a lot of the time, but that damage increase increase is going to more than make up for it. Now, Hu Tao does have a way to actually heal herself though. If you look at her Q, after she does it, she will actually regenerate some of her max HP. And if you run her with a healer, or if you do run her with like a shielder, like a Zhongli, who I actually think is one of her best supports, she can be absolutely incredible because you can leave her at that low HP. And this is why I actually use the Shimenawa 4-piece set, because it's actually going to increase even more her normal and charged attacks by an extra 50% on top of that 33% pyro damage bonus. So I can leave her at life support if I pair her up with Zhongli, and she's just going to be doing insane numbers just with her normal attacks and charge attacks. Talking about her charge attack, it is insanely strong. She does have a tech where if you're in her E form, you can actually cancel it by using a jump. So you can like start it and it's gonna hit, and then you can like jump cancel it, which is helpful if you are C0, because this next version of canceling really is super helpful if you have a C1, because she's not going to use up any of her stamina. But when you're in your E form here, you can actually dash cancel, because when you do a charge attack, it might send you behind a character. And so if you want to reposition yourself, you can actually dash cancel back around. That way you can reposition yourself in a better spot to hit them with another charge attack. But if you only have C0, this is going to kill your stamina so quickly. Like you can see, I've only done like 4 of them and her stamina is pretty much gone. But if you have that C0, you can pretty much dash cancel around enemies the entire time until they're dead, or when you run out of your E form. Okay, coming back to our punching bag Ruin Guard, I'm just gonna put a shield up with Zhongli, so that way I don't get interrupted or die with Hu Tao because she's on life support. Go into her E form, and I'm just gonna hit him with these charge attacks. Now look at these numbers here. 20 Ks on the charge attacks here, 7 Ks on just like autos, and okay, he's dead pretty quickly. So I didn't even really get to show off it too much because things just die when Hu Tao is around and she's on life support. So she's gonna kill things very, very, very fast. So a big difference between her and Childe though is she mainly focuses on single target. And like I mentioned, Childe does have some AoE and able to hit multiple enemies around, which is really helpful. But Hu Tao is so strong, everything is just going to pretty much die when you have her around. So now looking at team composition for her, like I mentioned, if you do have Zhongli, he's going to be one of the best shielders for her. His shield is so beefy, so you don't really have to worry too often about her being at life support and really have to worry about healing her. I'm able to actually do Spiral Abyss with no real healer except for floor 11 because of the corrosion. Now, if you don't have Zhongli, don't worry. If you've been playing, at least for a few months now, we did get Diona as a free character a few months ago who she can shield with her E as well. It's not as strong, but it is something. And then there are a couple other shield characters in the game, and Hu Tao's banner will have Toma on it, who is a shielder as well. So might actually work out, but we haven't seen his kit to actually try it. Now, the team that I typically run is Zhongli, Hu Tao, Xingqiu here. Xingqiu is going to provide an insane amount of off-field support, being able to pretty much vaporize all of Hu Tao's attacks. When Xingqiu goes into his burst, he's going to give us the water swords, and then once I do Hu Tao's E, it's pretty much just going to vaporize and kill everything. And then actually if I throw Chongyun in here, it actually becomes really fun because I can freeze using Xingqiu and Chongyun, then come in with Hu Tao and melt, and then be able to continuously vaporize with Xingqiu's Q. So pretty much to show you how this comp and rotation works out, I'm just gonna go into here, I'll shield up, Xingqiu is gonna do his Q, and then I can go ahead and use Chongyun for his, and then I'm just into Hu Tao. Oh, I got frozen a little bit, but look, 40 Ks, I'm seeing 38K on some of these charge attacks there. So insanely strong output here. Like I mentioned, she does kind of struggle a little bit because she is single target. So on this specifically where you kind of need some crowd control, it's not like the best. So I would say that's her biggest flaw, is that she can't actually like hit multiple targets. But I mean, overall, insane character who's going to do a ton of damage for you. And you don't have to worry about it too much if you have a similar team lineup like this. So now the big question between Childe and Hu Tao, which one do you choose? Which one do you go with if you only have enough, if you're free to play, maybe a low spender, and you don't have enough Primo Gems to get both of them? Well, I'm gonna say, as usual for most Genshin content creators, it depends. And it depends on your account really and who you currently have in your roster and what your needs are. Do you already have a pyro DPS carry kind of character? Because if so, you might not need Hu Tao, even though she is the best in my opinion in terms of how much damage she can do, but you do have to babysit her either with shields or with healers so that way she doesn't actually die, especially if you have a lower constellation and not a C6. Now if you're a whale, just go for C6 and you're gonna have one of the most insanely busted characters in the entire game. And the other thing I want to say is if you actually just like her character design more than you like Childe's, get Hu Tao then. Because that's also what matters a lot in this game, is just playing who you like. To me, that's what's going to make your experience more enjoyable playing this game. Now, if you like Childe from a character design, aesthetics, all that stuff standpoint, then go for Childe instead of Hu Tao. But like I mentioned, Tartaglia actually does a lot of AoE, which can be helpful, especially when you get further along in the game towards the end game with Spiral Abyss, because there tends to be a lot of enemies surrounding. And so to be able to hit multiple enemies at a time is great. Like I also mentioned, pairing him with Xiangling is incredible, and you do get her as a free character. And one of the key components of that team is using Bennett, who's another 4-star character. So it's really not that hard of an investment of a team to get. Both of them are going to be incredible characters for account. And when it comes to me personally, when 2.2 drops, I'm actually going to pull on Hu Tao's banner. And that's because I do want that coveted C1. And also Toma's on that banner too. So I think you're getting a lot of bang for your buck on her banner. But if you do pull for Tartaglia, if you do really like him, you're still getting an incredible character as well. So that's gonna go ahead and do it for this video. 2 incredible characters coming out. Who do you think you're gonna pull for? Let me know in the comments below. For the end of the video, I'm gonna put up a damage showcase doing the Abyss runs with those 2 teams using these 2 characters. And like I mentioned, either of them are going to do incredible for your account. So that's gonna do it for this one. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you in the next one.
冒险吗？收起来吧，我来保护大家。
御风而行，可叹落叶。
热乎热乎嘛，嘿哈！
逃得掉吗？要上来！终于，冰鬼神tra光感自燃，
锅吧，喷火！
有大家在身边。
风棍离形。对象选错。 御风而行，
想不通就打扁了。
一剑之水，终于，
收起来吧。
朔风解翼，
热乎热乎嘛。
御风而行，
只是成景，
天动万象，
急如赤令，
宝印换线。
震天撼地，
剑印染晕，羽线难画，彩羽流同，彩。邪魔退去。
此乃天道。
起！
故法是密，断！听我拔指，束手缚诛吧！
天动万象，
好！
只是成景，羽线难画，才。哼，邪魔退去，剑印染晕。
此乃天道。
起！走！呀嘿！呀嘿！
束手缚诛吧！彩羽流同，断！羽线难画，
迷坚不摧。
呀！ 好！
听我拔指，
震天撼地，迷坚不摧。
风共鱼行，起！
嘿哈！开锅了，开锅了！
势如狂澜，扩展，稍纵即逝。呵，嘿呀！嘿，
锅巴，喷火！
塔风，
有大家在身边，
嘿，
收起来吧！
想不通就打脸了！
起！呵，顶上！
收起来吧！
热乎嘛！
收起来吧！该走攻击了！
可叹落叶飘零。
见识下师傅的枪法。
要上了，忍着点，这可是很痛的。
锅巴，喷！
收起来吧！
震天撼地，天理长驱。
古华生命，断！
急如赤令，邪魔退去。
起！
玻璃
嘿！
弥坚不摧，
彩雨流红，羽线难画。抓住你！
束手无捉吧。
臂力千仞。
好！
退散！
天动万象。
剑冲！
古华生命，
宝印换剑。
嘿，走！咻！
震天撼地。
剑印斩月。
收起来吧！
热乎嘛！
我来保护大家。
风动鱼行，朔风锦翼，克！
想不通就打脸了！
势如狂澜，切！扩展，稍纵即逝。往返自然。
有大家在身边，
再锅巴，喷火！
可叹落叶飘。
千仞，
彩雨流红断，彩
呵，天理长驱。
邪魔退去，剑冲！
古华生命断，彩
听我拔尺，束手无捉吧！
只是成景，
剑冲！
该行动了。
固若金汤。此乃天道。
羽线难画，彩雨流红，
宝印换剑。
彩断， 法是秘，
急如赤令，邪魔退去。
天理长驱。
雨线难画，海雨流，
安如磐石。
宝印换剑。